Round 25, question 3 in So You Think You Know Welsh Rugby from 2008, right? In which year did Wales suffer their first ever Five Nations whitewash, losing all 4 matches?
I don't know. Well,
1989, 1990 or 1992?
people always talk about the 90s as being like the dark days. I assume that because they were quite good in the late 80s, in theory they weren't, but I'm going to go 92.
The correct answer is B, which is 1990.
Oh, that's close.
This is the thing, right? We are currently in trivia book territory for Wales. We're currently at the point where what they're looking at is the longest run of losses they've ever been on. This will come up when people make books like this, or more likely apps or whatever it is the kids use in the future. These will be the games that come up, right? And this game against Ireland is going to extend the losing run to 15, which at that point is going to be, this is something I have to look up, probably, it's got to be amongst the longest losing runs of any Tier 1 nation. You know, Italy probably had a similar one at some point.
The words Tier 1 are doing a lot of work there.
Yeah, well, they get 3 votes in the World Rugby Council, right? Which is always the definition of Tier 1. And people that make that joke of like, oh, Scotland should be Tier 2 because they don't never win the Six Nations or whatever. You're like, no, but fundamentally, the Tier 1 nations still get voting rights. They still have the rights.
They're still World Rugby sweethearts.
They can still vote in things, like, and they still have rights over the Tier 2 nations, and like, a lot needs to be done to reform that. That's a whole other.
We're viewed as superior by World Rugby.
Yeah.
Yes, so, in a way that we shouldn't be.
Yes. The point is, right, Wales are looking at what is almost definitely going to be a 15th loss in a row.
Yeah.
This Ireland team are considerably better than Wales.
Yeah.
And as such, it's one of these games that in some ways feels weird to preview and probably would have been quite difficult had it not been for the news that's come out since.
Well, that's it. You say like we're in trivia book territory. It's more for the fact that Wales have sacked their coach mid-Six Nations.
For the 4th time. No other team has ever sacked their coach in the middle of a 6 or 5 nations. Wales have done it 4 times.
No way. That's mental. It's so weird. Like, we were on about, just before we started recording this, like, going into, what analysis are you going to do? I don't know, what are you thinking of doing? It's like, we've got enough to talk about, haven't we?
We have.
You know?
We have.
Because, obviously, this is in round 3 of the Guinness Men's Six Nations 2025, that we've been covering for the last 2-3 weeks. Today, we are covering the first game of the Matt Sherratt era. Yeah. What the fuck is going on?
I did not have this one down a couple of years ago.
A couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. Well, if you'd said to me a few years ago, like, who's going to be the replacement for Gatland, I'd have gone, what do you mean? The Chiefs?
Yeah.
And then you'd have gone like, no, Gatland comes back and replaces Pivac, but then gets fired mid-Six Nations and replaced
Whilst still alive.
Yeah. You remember when the Ospreys were absolutely dreadful and didn't have a coach, and like the guy that was stepping up at the time there? Yeah, he's going to replace them. You would have gone, what?
I honestly thought we'd just yo-yo between Gatland and Pivac
Yeah,
forever.
I thought we were going to get like Pivac's son in, and then like Bryn Gatland would come in, and it just go back and forth. Bradley Pivac, I think is his name. We just go back and forth on them forever.
Good knowledge.
Here we are, Matt Sherratt. I don't know his children's names yet, but that's something we can learn over the next 3 games. That sounds terrifying as a level of detail.
We'll really get to know each other, Matt Sherratt, in the next 3 games.
Yeah.
It's so weird to evaluate as Welsh fans, which we are, by the way. We still are.
Hence
just
the
about.
quiz books.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm A, expecting or B, wanting out of this.
Yes.
Other than just the players to have a nice time, I guess.
Yeah.
But obviously, the good thing for Matt Sherratt is there's literally like no pressure on him other than just the pressure of being an international head coach.
Yeah.
But it's like no one, I don't think, really expects anything of him, because if it goes tits up, then everyone's just going to go, well, he got the job 4 days ago. What did you expect?
So
he can't turn it all around in one go.
He is going to have 4 training sessions between arriving for his first game and playing Ireland, the number 2 team in the world. Right? And we should talk a bit about Ireland, because I think most of the talking points around this game are around Wales, surprisingly. If this saga around Gatland and Sherratt hadn't happened, I think it would be the other way around. But as it is, you kind of go, well, the Ireland machine rolls on, doesn't it? Like, they are the 2nd best team in the world right now. They have been superb so far this Six Nations. The way they shut down Scotland, they weren't at their, like, all-court balling best against Scotland. They were just so efficient. They looked so many cuts above. They looked, you know, we mentioned Tier 1 nations and everything. They looked like a team from a higher level, higher degree, a higher division than Scotland. And that was a hugely impressive thing because there are very few teams that can get up to that level and really, really, dismantle a team as good as Scotland, even if they played poorly on the day. And yeah, against England, again, England were superb for an hour, and then Ireland just went, well, no, we're not having this. And you suspect they should win this game very comfortably, even without Calean Doris.
Yeah, obviously, I saw the news about Calean Doris, thought, yes, they don't want it. They're already dropping like flies. Ronan Keller has gone down there as well.
I've looked at the fixture list, went, no, not for me.
They don't want it,
fancy
lads. They don't want it. They just looked at the Welsh machine and they've gone, what's that, 14 on the trot? Nah, I'm not going anywhere near that. And they didn't hear whether it was wins or losses. No, obviously, yeah, even without Calean Doris, he is obviously, I think he sums up that pack, the rolling machine, as you put it a minute ago, because his engine is completely unstoppable. And yet you just know, without him, they're still going to be just as good in a way.
Yeah.
They have such strength in the back row. And just above all of that, they have an adaptable pack who will cover each other's jobs regardless.
Yeah.
We spoke before about, if James Lowe's not there and you've got Dan Sheehan in there, he plays half the winger role anyway.
Yeah.
For instance, they do cover each other's backs all the time. They've got so many good carries, the likes of Jack Conan, Peter O'Mahony, even Komaka Zichukwu.
Yeah.
All of these players who cover that back row position. Ryan Baird, another one. It's going to be such a hard day for Wales.
I don't think it'll be relevant in this game, but it'll be more relevant if we come to the France game. And it'll be interesting to look at this from an Irish perspective at how they cope without Doris. Because the one thing that you lose in Calean Doris is his work rate, right? And literally the only other two players in the world who have his work rate, who get off the ground and play again and involve themselves again as quickly as he does, are Jack Morgan and Quagga Smith.
Yeah.
They're the only two players.
And that's backed up by stats, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not just a bias thing. That is genuinely
in
with
terms of
stats.
the players who get off the ground, make a tackle, make a hit, make a carry, hit another ruck, whatever, make a positive involvement. Quagga Smith is second, Jack Morgan third, and Calean Doris is the number one player in the world for it, right? And those are the only two other players within a second or so, within a couple of involvements of them. Josh van der Fleer is up there. His involvements are enormous, his number of them. However, you are losing that. And that is the thing they lose as much as I think they can replace his carrying easily. I think they can replace every part of his game easily. But the actual rate he does them at is impossible to replicate. That won't be too big an issue, I think, against this Welsh team. But again, against France, you have to have a look at how they potentially prepare that if Doris's injury is as bad as some are fearing or worse than others are fearing.
Now, there was that thing that went out before the Six Nations where they asked all the captains if you could take one skill from another captain, what would you do? And all five of them, other than the French captain, said, I would take something from Antoine Dupont.
Yeah.
And they all picked a different skill, right? If you take Dupont out of the equation, obviously it's a lot more up in the air because you've got Jack Morgan in there, you've got Michele Lamoureux as an outstanding leader, you've got Itoje, there's so many options there, right? Rory Darge, Finn Russell, whatever, right? But with Calean Doris, I think if you were to ask all of those players what Calean Doris' best attribute is, I think there'll be different things coming up all over the place. And now I am going to move on from this because obviously Calean Doris isn't playing here. But to contextualise that stat, right, I would say the best part of Calean Doris' game is his attacking ruck ball. Is how quickly and how effectively he hits a breakdown, where he gets up, somebody else has just been tackled, and he smokes that breakdown every time. Now, the thing about how low that stat is in terms of how many seconds it takes, I don't know the exact stat, but how many seconds it takes him to move from one carry to the next breakdown, which is ludicrous, right? The thing is, what that means is that speeds up Ireland's ruck ball by over a second what it would have been without him, that is, which is already rapid, okay? Now, the thing is,
I got the stat wrong. It's, I think, 1.3 or 1.4 involvements per minute.
Yeah, that's it.
Which, again, say the ball's in play, not in play most of the time.
Now, back to the fact Calean Doris isn't playing in this. Okay, you still have Josh van der Fleer, you still have, as I say, Jack Conan, James Ryan, all of these players who will work around and do all of that. Andrew Porter, again, outstanding. So the Irish breakdown, let's say it's slowed down by a second. How much more than that does it need to be slowed down for Wales to keep up with it in defence?
So this is the interesting thing, right, is Mike Forshaw's defence is less about looking to smash you backwards, looking to blitz in the way we saw Sean Edwards, and more about slowing the ball down so your team can organise and always be set for the following phase. Which is why when we've seen Wales concede big score lines since Forshaw's come in, which even though they've lost a lot of games, actually hasn't been that often. They've lost a lot of close games. They've kept a lot of games where you go, they're going to be utterly blown away, much closer than you'd expect, including Ireland last year, where that game I think was like 7-12 at like 50 odd minutes, and Ireland took until the final play to get the bonus point. That game was much closer than anyone expected, because Forshaw's defence is all about slowing the ball down. And what they like to do, they like to put a lot of double tackles in, so that even though they're not contesting anyone at the breakdown, even at the moment the player actually hits the ground and presents the ball, they're back up on their feet. What they're doing is making sure that they get someone on the ball at all times and everyone is wrapped up. Yeah. And it's incredibly effective in the World Cup when those players were fit and drilled for it. What we're seeing generally in the Six Nations and autumn since is players who are conditioned for very different game plans coming in and trying to run one game plan that is so physically demanding that it hasn't necessarily worked as effectively as it can. But I think with Sherratt in charge, Wales are probably going to look to keep hold of the ball a bit more than they did under Gatland, where kicking was obviously very often the first port of call, especially against Italy. And so we might see that being able to be used a bit more, because you're able to conserve your energy more when you're attacking, right? Like, you're not, if you're a prop or you're a 10 and the opposition want to run at you and tire you out, that's not going to happen on attack. Yeah. Like, you can just, wander about and take position as you want to best see. So Wales' defence, I think, is going to look to slow the Irish ball down. There may be personnel changes that lead to that happening even more. Additionally, the fact that Dan Sheehan is so often used as that edge forward, as that winger, right, in the way Kelleher is as well. He's often used in those positions. And there's been a few points, I think, like, we've seen the Six Nations that work, but also we've seen the shortcomings of, like, plays of clearly designed with Sheehan in mind. Then Kelleher can't quite run because he doesn't have the same pace, same dynamism. But still an exceptional player. But, like, he spends more time out on the wing, and Kelleher does come in and does often...
Kelleher's more of a hooker. Dan Sheehan is an extra winger. Yeah. There's nothing bad about it.
But we're also likely to see Ireland probably keep an extra forward out on the wing and keep an extra forward in wider positions. So they probably are going to be lighter in that midfield. And that becomes a case of, can Wales slow their ball down enough? Because I think that is, like, going to be the battle. If Ireland can get ball as quick as they have had in the opening two games, they probably can blow Wales away and get a bonus point pretty easily. Yeah. I still expect them to win the game regardless, But I think there is a big challenge here of Wales have a great opportunity to slow that ball down. And if they can, you can then shut down any defense, any attack. Like, no matter how fluent they are, no matter how many moves they have, no matter how many little pop passes they do, no matter what form Prendergast is playing in, like, you can shut down, with slow enough ball, any attack.
In theory.
In theory. That's it. But that's the theory that Wales are playing to.
Yes.
Is slow this ball down, look to get them playing sluggishly as possible, and hopefully you then prompt an error or that somewhere in there. But, like, if you have to go 30 phases and then playing on slow ball and they then eventually kick it away.
This is from a perspective of what Wales will be telling themselves.
What Wales will be wanting to do, what they're looking for in a perfect world.
Because you mentioned that the World Cup's a really good example of them using the kind of buying time strategy by wrapping up players, going for the pseudo choke tackle. They're not actually going for that. They're doing that to drag in more players from the attack who want to smack that breakdown, get it on the floor, so they can then carry on playing, speed the ball up a little bit more, and B, as you say, slowing the ball down, essentially. The thing about Ireland is, in a way, they are the worst team to do this against, because they love doing that thing that Ireland do, where they start with a really tight attacking line, and they'll just send loads of people flooding through tiny little gaps, just to open up bigger ones out wide. Okay, so a phase or two later, they will then just go from here to here, and they will change their attacking shape on the fly inside 3 or 4 seconds. And they'll clearly have a call that means that we're doing that in 5 seconds or whatever, changing formation. Now, and they have the players like, I was going to say Doris, but it's not him, but let's say Dan Sheehan, Van der Fleer, right, and Bundy Arkey, I think, is the main one in terms of this. Being able to seamlessly transition from hard line into ball player, and their forward pack across the board are unbelievable at that. And the thing about this is the tackle tech of the Welsh players in order to go through a defensive system like this, as you say, it's very energy sapping. It requires pretty strict discipline in one person going around the midriff, another person going up towards the sternum and wrapping up that ball, right? You're automatically tying in 2 players before you've committed to a tackle. The thing Ireland are so good at is staying unpredictable when they're hitting front line, when they're going out the back, always keeping 15 men in the attack, like genuine options in the attack. And when Wales are energy sapped, that is when kind of the mental energy is going to go. They're going to be mentally fatigued a little bit more, and they're going to make a few more rash decisions on that. And that is, I think, what Ireland will target. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to half an hour into the game and you're looking at Wales and going like, they've held them to only 1 try here. This is really good. And then in the second half, Ireland just completely blow them away. because Wales have been on their toes the whole time.
Although you talk about the mental edge, and I think that is the big area in which Matt Sherratt is going to make changes. We talked a little bit in our video on Gatland leaving, that what Sherratt has done at Cardiff is he's rebuilt trust and he's rebuilt a real sense of togetherness and family within that club. And you see, even though they lost more games than they won last season, you had the stands packed and fans really believing and really invested in this team again. And the players in particular really picked that up. And he came in under the shadow of a bunch of scandals, a bunch of problems, everything that happened with the contract situation in Welsh Rugby last year. All of that happened as Sherratt was stepping up to be a full-time head coach for the first time in his career. And so he then took over in really difficult circumstances, talked incredibly positively and got the players to believe again. And I think that's very much what he's going to look to do again. We saw Jim Botham recently come out and say that he just thinks Sherratt this is, pays attention to everyone and listens to everyone, and he loves to talk to the players and look at them individually and pick up on what they're doing, and it's just really holistic as a coach and a really good man manager. And I think the Gatland approach had worn thin. I don't think it turned around losing causes, and I think a lot of those tricks had probably hit a point of diminishing returns with Gatland, and having a new voice in will probably keep Wales a bit mentally fresher, get them playing for them again. But the other side of this is I think we're going to see, as much as is possible in 4 training sessions, a pretty big change in how Wales play. And obviously, Matt Sherratt can't change everything. He can't change a lot. But I think when you really drill into the Welsh performances, they are closer to being a good team than you'd think. It's just they keep getting all of the tiny details completely wrong, right? Like, it's like they have built the shape properly. They've built the house properly, but they've entirely used the worst quality bricks, so it keeps falling down. And you're like, well, actually, the construction there is fine. It's not a world-class house, but it's an okay house for the street it's being built on. So if you take that Welsh attack at points during the France game in particular, and little patches against Italy, but they really didn't have the ball. But against France, we saw passages where they ran good shapes or they ran good plays, and then just no one was running the dummy lines, or they were going backwards already and they were running off bad ball. And there's 2 things this Cardiff team are really good at under Matt Sherratt. Since he's come in, he's really big on a few things. I think there's kind of 3 key areas I'd point to, right? One is he absolutely loves to target an opposition individual player's weakness. We've seen him a lot, identify perhaps that a wing is slow to turn and look to put little rubber kicks in behind. Perhaps there could be an advert that could give him that idea.
It does definitely give you a competitive advantage in life and in business and in rugby. I've got to admit that,
Yeah, it's a really sage bit of advice, that. So that is one thing that he loves to do. I don't know who you can target in this Irish team, but maybe he's noticed that, Calvin Nash has got one arm that doesn't quite advance, whatever. He's got
a robotic arm.
He's got a robotic arm. He's noticed that Calvin Nash is a cyborg. He was built to play jazz music, and he's trying to play rugby now. And every now and again, his elbow gets caught playing a saxophone movement when he's trying to catch a ball. And maybe you can exploit that. I don't know. But
interesting. You know what? If this game happens, right, and this is all serious.
If this game happens,
if this game happens, right, and we come away at the end and we do our review of it, and it's the most surprising moment of the game was the bit where Calvin Nash pulled out the saxophone as he was scoring a try and used his cyborg arm to fend off Blair Murray or whoever he's stuck on the wing now.
We've got the title of the video. So why did Calvin Nash pull out that whole musical band and play a succession of jazz hits during the match?
Then everyone will comment this aged really well.
Fair, you called that.
Play.
Yeah.
Fair play. If that didn't happen, just whack this aged badly in the comments.
Or
that's
just
fine.
don't.
Yeah. Anyway.
Just what jazz tunes do you want to hear him play? I want to hear him freestyle, but that's beside the point. Yeah, so
the thing is, I completely agree with everything you've said. And at the same time, it's easier to say all of this about rejuvenating Wales than it is to tackle Andrew Porter.
Yeah. But I think the thing, Wales will target attack, right? And for me, a good Welsh performance is one you can be proud of. I don't care how many points they score, I don't care what they do. Mike Forshaw said that all that matters is performance. They're not worried about the result at all this weekend, and I think that's absolutely
rightfully so. Just get stuck in, lads.
But if we look at the way that Cardiff have attacked under Matt Sherratt, I think we've seen some signs of things that he can feasibly implement with Wales, right? Which Wales' attack has been so one side to one side, no one running good dummy lines. And the other 2 factors I point out about Sherratt's attack, right? One, is they love cheap meters. And so Matt Sherratt teams tend to attack down short sides an awful lot, right? They tend not to attack right to the width and get down to the touchline. They like to hit into that 13 channel off early phase ball. So they've then got a short side they can hit into because the defence never sets as well and never is as aggressive on the short side.
Using like Jim Botham types as that kind of edge forward to just hit him on those hard lines against maybe a scrum half or a fly half. You see Ireland often defend with the Prendergasts and the JGPs in that channel as well.
Channel, And so you look at like this try Theo Cabango scores against Ulster is a great example of them just looking down that short side and then realising there's an overlap there. Sometimes that happens, but quite often it is just like a flanker will carry hard down there or a centre will peel around the corner and hit that short side. Ireland do the same thing incredibly well, but it allows you to then play other moves off go forward ball. The other thing is support runners, right? And in the space of a few weeks, 4 training sessions, you can probably teach 2 or 3 new set moves, which you can probably use, especially if other players are used to your coaching methods and perhaps have played those moves at Cardiff. You can probably run that move. Cardiff support play is really good. And if you look through any of the tries they score, like this one, again, is like particularly great, where you've got like 4 players flooding through and you've got 2 more players in support before it's finished. Really, really strong, like in terms of their ability to do that. And then that also allows you to open up the dummy runners, allows you to use those dummy runners properly. Because that can be one thing Sherratt can come in and go, is no role and just put your hand up at all times. Like, you will be bollocked in the meeting on Monday if you're not putting your hands up to catch the ball, even if you're just a dummy runner. You're not calling if your body language isn't selling it. Those are the things that need to be addressed, and those are things he can address really quickly, as well as the fact that Cardiff are much bolder just playing off 9 when they get within 5-10 metres of the line. You look at their game against Connacht last week, and again, they scored 3 tries in that game to come back from 19-0 down, and those tries came from them playing more varied rugby 5 metres out from the line. Like, this try again, Ray Lilo scores, because, you know, Ray Lilo will be playing for Cardiff. I think Sherratt is going to name his Welsh team, and he's going to accidentally name Ray Lilo at 13 out of force of habit. Like, it's just going to keep happening, but that's fine.
We'll take him. Take him.
But Rory Jennings, like, little ball here, like, playing it off and crashing it up and, you know, scoring under the post rather than continuing to pick and go, which is what the Gatland team would have done here, and Howley, I think is the sort of thing we can expect from Wales. We can expect them to see, perhaps take a few more chances. Know this is a complete free hit. Know that if Wales lose all 3 games horribly, no one will hold it against Matt Sherratt. So I think we'll see them roll the dice a bit more, and I think there are realistic things that they can change in the space of 2 weeks that can make a real impact on how Wales play with the ball.
Yeah. I think to kind of wrap this up, right? I definitely agree. I think that Sherratt coming in will be a really good thing for the Wales attack because, as you say, like Cardiff are fun to watch. You can see what they're trying to do in terms of shifting, as you say, which part of the defence they're looking to target game on game. You know, and I think that's really good. I think it's really important that as Welsh fans we don't forget where we were 2 weeks ago, where we were saying in the Italy game, or at least us particularly were saying in the Italy game, I don't care that we're not scoring tries. I just care that I don't know what we're trying to achieve, you know? And look, the Irish defence will not just let Wales through.
No.
That's not going to happen. They're one of the best defences in the world. They're going to be brutal, right? But as long as, even if they score no points, as long as I can at least try and see what they're attempting to achieve in attack on the first of 3 games this coach is going to have, which is a 4 training sessions to prepare for, that honestly is the bar. It's incredibly low. I don't care, right? It can't get any worse at the moment. You might as well set the bar really low as long as it's slightly higher than where it has been in the Italy game because that was terrible.
Absolutely. It's one of the most easy to predict results that we've seen, certainly between 2 home nations for a very long time. It's one of the most easy in the 6 nations you can remember. And yet, I think the details within it, beyond Ireland having a W next to their name at the end of the game, are fascinating, and I think there's an awful lot to look forward to. I think I am excited about this game, which is not something I've felt about Wales for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's a free hit, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's the most important thing. And final thing that I want to state here, okay.
Sorry, I flicked to a random page, and again, it was the one with the whitewash result on it.
It follows you everywhere, the curse. Okay. So, do you want to know my favourite jazz trio?
So Calvin Nash, Ryan Gosling from the film La La Land, and Miles Teller from the film Whiplash.
Well, you're close. You're 1 out of 3, okay? My favourite jazz trio is Crosby, Stills and Nash. Do you think Calvin Nash is a Nepo baby from Graham Nash? Is that his dad?
Yeah. We knew this already. Yeah. This is a very well-established fact. Not quite as well-established fact, though, as who scored 80 tries in 119 appearances for Pontypridd during the 90s? Was it Kevin Morgan, Geraint O'Lewis, or David Manley?
Answer in the comments.
Oh,
Which one was it?
I haven't checked.
Okay.
Lee Jarvis isn't answering the question above, though. I haven't read the question, but I think who can spiral punt the ball the most?
Who in Wales likes chicken the most?
Who spoilt the end of the last Bond film for me?
Did he?
Yeah.